give mightily, give till it hurts, and let's get to that goal. All right, ways to listen to our Care-a-thon. Obviously, however you're listening now, you may be on the radio. We're on 101.7 Lindsborg and Salina, 105.7 Hayes, 88.1 Great Bend, 88.1 Hayes, and 89.1 Colby. You can also listen at dvmercy.com and click on Listen Live. You can download the app on your smartphone, or you can play us on your Amazon Alexa, your Amazon Echo. Sorry about my tongue twisting there. Alexa, enable the Divine Mercy radio skill is all you have to say, and then you just list whichever station afterwards. So you would say for the Lindsborg or Salina station, or for the Hayes station, and then you should be able to just play it after that by saying, Alexa, play Divine Mercy radio in Hayes or in Lindsborg, Salina, wherever you're at. Finally, you can find us live on Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube. I know Michael was in here working on that, getting that ready to go. As soon as we're up and running, you can find us there. All right. Another awesome thing that we have going on during the Care-a-thon. We have our trivia questions. I think most everybody knows, but if you don't, you get to call in twice per hour, and we'll ask you a question. If you call in and you're the first person to get the question right, we will put your name in a drawing. And at the end of the day, we will draw one person who will get a $50 gift certificate to Messenger Traditional Catholic Books and Gifts. Jerome and Angela Schmeidler are the owners. I was just in there yesterday. They have such a beautiful store downtown. They are great people, such a wonderful family. Please support them, and also call in to win this question, to give us your pledge. Here we go. This is going to be our first trivia question of the day. Get the phones ready, folks. 785-621-4110. All right. Our 7 o'clock question is, which of these are not an actual pair of biblical books? Is it A, 1st and 2nd Kings, B, 1st and 2nd Psalms, C, 1st and 2nd Maccabees, or D, 1st and 2nd Samuel? Which of these are not an actual pair of biblical books? A, 1st and 2nd Kings, B, 1st and 2nd Psalms, C, 1st and 2nd Maccabees, or D, 1st and 2nd Samuel? 785-621-4110 for your answer, for your pledge, for both. Let's get those phones ringing. All right, now to the good stuff here. We've got Ethan Lang with us this morning. Ethan, how you doing?
Doing good.
Fantastic. So Ethan is he is actually the inventor of one of our local shows here, I guess, if you want to say inventor. He is the one who dreamed up and came up with Faith-Driven Finance. And so that is a local show that Ethan and I get to do. And Ethan was born and raised here in Hayes. He's married to his beautiful wife, Emily, and they welcomed their first baby girl this past summer. He's a financial planner who helps individuals, couples, and families plan for their future while being good stewards of God's money. So, Ethan, it's great to have you back in here. I know you have to see way too much of me, but it's always good to have you. Let's just kind of jump right into your talk, because I think people are waiting to hear from you and less from me. So how has the growth of your family impacted your personal life and finances?
Sure. Well, definitely a lot. I don't think I was ready for that big of a change. I don't think anyone can be, but, I'd say to start just a new level of responsibility. It's different when you have a baby, you start to realize that they only learn what you teach them. And the main way kids learn is through example. So it's a stark realization of the things I do directly affect her, to affect Elsie. So I would say that was the first thing, is just, a huge new level and feeling of responsibility.
Yeah, that's it. Obviously, there's a lot of times I've had to say, yeah, I'm sorry, honey, that one's me. And those usually aren't the good times. And so, yeah, but that's awesome that you're learning that early. So, yeah. All right, a little bit about your family there. I think also it would be good for us to tell people, when we're talking about faith-driven finance, there are probably people out there in the listening area who haven't heard this yet. So should we give them a little bit of a background maybe on what we're talking about?
For sure. Yeah. Okay. So Faith-Driven Finance is a show that is a local Divine Mercy radio show. We've had it since about July, have recorded about over 20 episodes so far. And, it's just really a show to try and integrate faith and finances and be able to look at your personal finances really from a faith first approach, that you can take and run with and learn about finance, but also learn about it from a better source that is, talking about it as it regards to the faith.
Yeah, I think that's such a great thing, and I love being able to do this show with you because, for me, I've grown a lot in my understanding of financial matters, and I still have a lot to learn. But it's been very helpful, just to be able to hear the different things that people go through, the different ways that money can trap us, but also just all the things that we get to discuss where normal financial shows, they don't really have the faith aspect to them. There's a lot that will line up, but we get to just specifically be like, hey, we're on Catholic radio. We can speak directly to how our faith informs then our financial life. So I think that's such a beautiful thing to be able to do with that.
For sure.
Absolutely. Okay. So, I've heard of a couple things from the show, which is good. But have you heard any feedback about faith-driven finance since it has begun?
For sure. Yeah, I think there's been a lot of positive feedback, which has been really good because most of the time with shows, you just don't get feedback unless it's negative. So it's always good to hear positive feedback. I've heard a lot of people that are very excited with it because it's actionable, that they can actually take something from the episodes and implement it into their own life. It's always cool to hear from people as well of, that they can trust the things we talk about because it comes from a faith first approach, right? It really helps people know that because it comes from that approach, that they're a lot more comfortable with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I would like to say also that I met a guy, I think he was from the Colby area, and I was at the diocesan CYO convention, and he said that he really enjoyed listening to it, turned it on when he was in his tractor. And I think that's fantastic that we've got people out there listening, and it's wonderful that we're able to get that feedback. So if you are listening to that show, let us know. If there's something negative that you're like, I didn't really appreciate that, well, let us know. But also give us that feedback of things that you would like to see in the future for future shows, so that we can make sure that Ethan covers them, because he's the financial guy. I'm just the talking head. And so we'll let him actually tackle that. Right, Ethan?
For sure. And I think, just totally, if you have questions, please ask them, because if you have a question, odds are that other people have that same question as well. And we've got plenty of topics of things that we want to talk about in the future, but the best things, that we can talk about are questions that our listeners actually have. So if you have those questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Divine Mercy on the website under kind of the Faith Driven Finance tab. There is like a little envelope that you can submit your questions. So even if you just don't want to call in and just go directly to the website and ask a question, there's a possibility that at the end of an episode, we might answer your question. Or if your question's a little broader and needs a whole episode on its own to be answered, we'll make a whole episode specifically for that question.
Yeah, absolutely. So there have been a lot of episodes that we've been able to put out there so far. Maybe could we recap some of those? And then also, can you give us a teaser about anything that may be coming up?
For sure. Yeah. So like I said before, we've recorded, we record episodes weekly. So we've recorded about 20 episodes so far. So there's been quite a few topics that we've been able to talk about. Obviously, all the episodes are aimed to kind of give that faith-first approach, that faith-driven approach, to your personal finances. But it's very interesting because I feel like we have two buckets that our episodes fall into, right? Obviously, we have the episodes that integrate very, very deeply into the faith, where we're, explaining specific verses in scripture, where we're looking through specific parables about money, right? Or we're even looking into what the catechism has to say about personal finances, debt, investing, all of the things. But we also have episodes where, we talk through a financial topic, but then we find some way to integrate that into the faith, right? So we've talked about everything from building a financial foundation to paying off debt. We've talked about the basics, the building blocks of investing. We've talked about Catholic investing and being able to invest in companies that align with your Catholic values and don't invest in things that don't align with it. We've talked about preparing for retirement. We've talked about, parenting and money, teaching your kids about money, talked a lot about financial psychology. So definitely a lot of topics we've addressed so far. But our goal is to ultimately talk about your complete financial life, right? So go into everything from, building a legacy and talking about estate planning to talking about protecting yourself through insurance and all the different areas of your financial life. Our goal is to equip you in all of those areas.
Yeah, and one of the episodes that I really liked was when you were talking about these different profiles that people kind of fall into, and one of those is, just your money status profile, and different things like that, because it helps you to, sometimes you do have to, it's not that you want to label yourself and be like, oh, well, that's just me, and so that's just who I am. But it does help to understand that if these are the ways that I do spend, or if this is the outcome that I'm looking for, well, it's no wonder that this is where I'm at right now in my financial life, because this is what I'm doing. And so, yeah, that's why I've liked it so much, is being able to see, oh, like I said earlier, this is why it also matches up very much with my faith. Is because if I'm being very lax in that, I may be very lax in another realm in my life also.
For sure. Yeah. And I think that the biggest piece, that we're trying to ultimately help with is like, we're not trying to demonize money by any means. I know that sometimes that can feel that way when you're talking about faith and finances, but really for us, like, we understand that money is a tool and money is a gift from God, and how could we be stewards of that, right? And It's not all tithing, even though tithing is a huge part of it, but also being able to, prepare for your future, as well as, support your family and all those areas, and talking about, how can we integrate our faith into our financial life so that we can ultimately be more fulfilled, more happy over the long run, because we're taking a faith-driven approach to finances, as opposed to, always just wanting that next thing and falling into consumerism and all that stuff.
Absolutely. I'm going to break in here really quickly. Sorry, I know that you guys are loving it, but that's why I have to break in, because I got to make some announcements here. So first off, I'd like to congratulate Paulette Reichert. She won the trivia question. That question was, which of these are not an actual pair of biblical books? Correct answer was B, First and Second Psalms. There is no First and Second Psalms. It's all just a book of Psalms. So congratulations to Paulette, wonderful lady in our community. We appreciate that. And then I want to thank Paul Shippers from Victoria, who pledged $100. Thank you very much, Paul. Your gift just became $200 with those matching funds that we have. And then also Troy and Geraldine Shippers. Troy is a board member. I think he happens to know Ethan a little bit.
Maybe.
Happens to be his father-in-law. And so thank you, Troy and Geraldine. They are from Victoria, and they also pledged $500. And so we just used up another $600 of those matching funds to both of those groups of generous people. Thank you so much. 785-621-4110. You are listening to Divine Mercy Radio's Fall Care-a-thon. And we are, our Care-a-thon theme is Joy of the Gospel. We're talking with Ethan Lang. We're talking about our local radio show that we have here called Faith Driven Finance. And we were just discussing the tie between finances and our faith life, and that we're not trying to demonize money, but that we want us to be able to have that proper understanding of how to use it wisely and how to use it as a gift that God has given us, and a gift to bless others. So Ethan, where do we want to go then from there? Do we want to keep on some of the rehashing of the old topics, or do you want to tease people with some new ones?
Yeah. I think just kind of going over for those who haven't listened, about some of the topics that we've really covered. I know we gave the broad overview of some of the stuff, but I think one of the ones that Cody was really interested in was financial psychology, right?
Yeah.
And one of the topics we talked about there was money scripts, and really, one of the ones he brought up was money status, which is basically, you have this feeling that you have to flaunt your wealth to others, right? And it's a very common thing to feel, or if you don't have something nice, you feel like less of a person because of it. But in addition to that, like there's tons of other scripts and areas of your life that we can fall into of worshiping money, and it's not that everyone worships money, but there's levels to it as to how much, someone might, and it brings us back to the piece of the faith and helps us understand, there's a lot of areas of money that are very tactical, very, math driven, numbers driven. But there's also a huge part of our financial life that is psychological. That is the way we think about money. And, it doesn't matter how much money you have, but the way you think about money dictates, your happiness with how much you have.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I would say, even especially as we have now entered Advent, it's very difficult. Actually, I'm thinking of the Knights of Columbus magnets we have at St. Nicholas right now. They say keep Christ in Christmas. It's sad that we have to have that. It is a great message because it needs to remind people, but it is sad that we have to have something out there because there's a whole group of people out there that don't even really, either they don't know what Christmas is, or it has kind of gone to the back of their mind. And yeah, they have fallen into the trap of society, with Black Friday and everything from there to Christmas. It's really just, the secularization of it has caused this to be a money holiday.
Yep.
And obviously without money, we could give our family gifts. There's other ways to give gifts and stuff, but it does allow us to get them something nice sometimes. So kind of as we were saying, where do we find that balance, especially in this time of Advent, of not just falling into the buy, spend, and then Christmas gets here and you're like, oh, I'm so exhausted and my bank account is dry. So
yeah. And I think with that, our big goal with this show, it's so easy to silo different areas of your life. You're like, here's my faith life, here's my financial life, my personal life. And like our goal is just to take that, faith and start to integrate it into your financial life and just make this one piece of your life, right? Like bring it together. And it's not, here's my faith and my finances, I do totally different things, but they're integrated, they're together. And you think about your finances while you're thinking about your faith.
And that actually ties perfectly with our theme, Joy of the Gospel, because that's what you find is when you allow your finances to be driven by your faith and understand that they're a gift, then you don't have that anxiety. It's not that you will never have any troubles, or something, big medical bill or something may come up. But it's not the driving force where every minute of every day, you're just thinking about your pocketbook going, how much did I win or lose today?
Yep.
You can have joy even in the difficult times. And I think that's the big thing with our theme is, don't let that money become your God, but let it be the tool, however God wants you to be blessed by it.
Yeah. And I think the more you pray and the more you understand and think about your faith in regards to your finances, the more clear those decisions become.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you have some teasers for us then for future episodes that we might have?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think through, obviously Cody and I record a lot of the episodes ahead of time. So I'm trying to think in my head what episodes are out versus what episodes are yet to be released. But from what I'm thinking, we've got a few awesome episodes coming up. I know we have one, whether it's released or not, about church teaching on tithing.
Oh yeah,
That was a
a good
really
one.
cool episode, and I think all the listeners will love it. In addition to that, I think we had another episode where we talked about one of the parables, and in specific, what things you can do, and how we can take, a parable that has a financial topic related to it, but isn't directly financial, and what lessons we can take with that and apply it to our financial life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also in that episode, we get into the whole issue of, do you give to somebody who's on the side of the street? Do you think maybe they're panhandling and stuff like that? And so I really enjoyed being able to discuss that and flesh that out a little bit. And I think also that may be one of those ones where listeners might have some questions and might say, hey, could you guys further this? And that would be fantastic, because that's what we're looking for, is we want that feedback, like we said earlier, so that whatever you guys want to hear, that's what you're hearing. That's why we're here, is we want to give you what you want, and so.
Exactly. And we have tons of ideas of different things to talk about, but if there's any areas that we have an episode and you want us to go deeper into a specific topic and talk more about it, or if you're like, I've heard too many episodes on this, you should talk about something else.
Yeah,
we can do that as well. But yeah, I think coming up, episodes that we haven't recorded yet, a few more parables are on the docket to be able to talk through. And then just really other areas of your financial life. There's so many episodes that we could talk about with insurance. Might not always be the most exciting episodes, but ones that are super, super important. And just other areas of your financial life besides, the basics of, budgeting, saving, investing, and paying off debt. There's so much more to your financial life that I'm excited to get into some more of those numbers episodes that we can still relate back to the faith, but are super important for us to be able to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to break in here really quickly to remind everybody that you are listening to Divine Mercy Radio's Fall Care-a-thon, The Joy of the Gospel. We have a Care-a-thon goal this time of $125,000. We started out this morning with $30,310 in matching funds. We've already gotten a couple of pledges, but we want to ask that if you're listening to us, you prayerfully ask God if He wants you to help us to keep on the radio waves here. So that's what we do at Divine Mercy Radio. Every bit of funds that come in, we are completely listener funded. And I'm on the board of members. I support this station. I would ask that you do the same. I will be making my pledge later also. And so I challenge you to help us in putting the gospel out there. There are so many radio shows. There's so much that inundates people within our communities with stuff that just doesn't matter. So it's really great to get on to our radio station. It's pretty much the only station that my dial is ever on in my truck. If I turn my radio on, that's what it's on. And it's just because you can actually listen to it and then be like, oh, that's a breath of fresh air. I'm tired of hearing all the other junk. I'm tired of hearing how miserable everything else is and how miserable everybody else wants things to be, it seems like. And so it's nice to be able to turn this on. Join with us. Keep the joy of the gospel going. 785-621-4110. That's 785-621-4110. You can also donate at dvmercy.com. And if you go there, you can watch the thermometer during the week and see how we're doing. So if you're out there listening right now, I think we've probably got a $250 donor out there. If that's you and the Lord is calling you to help us out, please call in. Let's get that $250 donor this second half of this 7 o'clock hour. And just to spice things up a little bit, I'm going to get to the second trivia question. So once again, for the trivia question, you're going to call 785-621-4110. And if you get that trivia question correct, then you will get your name put into a drawing this evening for a $50 gift certificate to Messenger Traditional Catholic Books and Gifts. Owners are Jerome and Angela Schmeidler. All right, here we go for our second trivia question, 785-621-4110. Who did God call out of the land of Ur? Was it A, Abraham, B, Isaac, C, Jacob, or D, St. John the Baptist? Who did God call out of the land of Ur? A, Abraham, B, Isaac, C, Jacob, D, St. John the Baptist. I hear those phones ringing. Let's get those pledges. Let's get those answers. 785-621-4110. All right. Without further ado, let's get back to Ethan Lang. Ethan, we've been speaking about your new show, Faith Driven Finance. It's a blessing to be able to be on there with you. We were just talking about some shows that may be coming up. Is there something that we could, more than just give them a topic, is there something that we could break into a little bit maybe and discuss so that those who haven't heard the show can understand what it's kind of like?
For sure. Yeah, I think, I guess we could go into one of the shows that I do not think has released yet. And that was the parable of the workers in the vineyard.
Yeah.
And really talking about, what that means, why it's important, what lessons we can learn from it all. And obviously from first glance, if you've ever read the parable, while it is about money, it's not really the intent of what God's trying to talk about in the parable.
Correct.
Right? So God uses a lot of analogies, and he was talking about money, but what his real thought was that salvation isn't something, that's earned, right? So just because the workers that got there early in the day and worked all day got salvation, but the ones that showed up with 1 hour left to work still got salvation.
Yeah.
And that was the real understanding, of the episode, or of the parable in specific. But where we talked a lot, as we relate it to faith, is just different areas where we let greed and envy take over. And we see that someone else has got something that was easier for them to get, or they just have a higher paying job. And we envy that because we don't think it's fair.
Yeah. And I think that was another one of the things that I really liked that came out of that episode was just the discussion on, there's a lot of things in life that aren't fair, and it would help us if we stopped talking about fairness and started talking about justice, and in the eyes of God, whatever he does is just. And so also, as you were saying that, just the understanding that I think one of the things you bring up in that episode is that if he had actually started with the workers who started in the morning, they would have walked off with their pay and they would have never known. And so it's only because they get this outside view and are able to see it that then they're angry.
Yeah. And that's what we've related to, with the world that we have today of advertisers spending millions upon millions of dollars to make you feel like you don't have enough. Or looking at social media and seeing the picture perfect view of someone else and comparing it to the worst parts of yourself. Right. And in a financial view, that taking, in this parable, right, those who only worked for the last hour of the day got paid the same for the people that worked all day. Right. And it's because the people that worked all day saw that the other people got paid a day's labor, they thought, okay, I'm going to get paid more because I've been working longer. And, we can really relate that to, what we've seen in just the social media era or the publicity that everyone has almost in their life, that it's so easy to try to compare yourself to what car this person has or the home that they have or all of these things. And, obviously there's always the statement that comparison is the thief of joy. And that's what this does, right? Like you mentioned, if those that worked all day would have got paid first, they would never have compared themselves to anything and they would have been happy. But the second you begin to compare what you got to what somebody else got, that's where you're always going to be left disappointed because there's always going to be someone that has something more, something nicer than you.
Wow. I don't know where you heard that, but I do like hearing comparison is the thief of joy. Oh, yeah, that's, as we're speaking of the joy of the gospel, wow, what is that thing that is going to rob us of the joy of the gospel? Then, yeah, looking out there and trying to see, uh, you know, it- how are they doing so well? Why am I always getting the shaft, or however you want to put it, but also one of those things I think that we flesh out in there a little bit too is, as you kind of mentioned, don't look at that snapshot. Sometimes the people that seem to be doing the best on the outside are doing the worst on the inside.
For sure. And
Um,
not, obviously that's not always the case,
no,
but there are many times where, people that you look at and you see the 1,000-foot view or the social media profile, and you think these people are doing great. Like, what am I doing wrong?
yeah,
When really you're just making an apples to oranges comparison. You're comparing the best pieces of their life, the stuff that has filters and that they're wanting to put on social media, versus the worst parts about you, because you know yourself
yeah,
and you don't know what they're going through, and you're making a comparison, but it's not equal.
yeah. And even if they are, maybe they're just a really great person. Maybe God has blessed them fantastically. And then in that, we should just be like, that's awesome.
Yep.
I'm glad that God has blessed them.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other area we talked about too, is like, if you specifically go looking for the areas that things are unfair, you're certainly going to find them.
Oh, absolutely.
If you go looking for ghosts, you're going to find them, but at the same time, you can flip that script. And if you look for areas where you should be grateful, you will also find them as well.
Yeah.
So it's flipping that understanding of being able to really look at the areas that, you're grateful, because obviously if you're listening to this show, like, the fact that you have a device to be able to listen to it on, whether it's your car or your phone, shows that you're probably better off than 90% of the people around the world.
Yeah. And that is another thing too, is that, as you just stated it, in the United States, we do have it better than the majority of the world. And sometimes it is due to our own faults that we find ourselves in situations where we're like, how come I'm the one getting hosed? Now, I'm not going to say that that's always is. We look back at like 2008 and stuff like that. And there were people that bad things happened to through no fault of their own. And so that does happen. But sometimes if we take a deep look, we can see like, well, actually, I don't make real great money decisions every month.
Sure.
And that's why I'm in credit card debt.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we do need to take that ownership. All right. I want to check really quickly. I don't see that we have a trivia winner. I will check and make sure. But I do want to thank Randy Huser from Victoria, who pledged $200, and also Elsie Lang donated $25. That is fantastic. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Elsie.
I don't know how Elsie got into my wallet and donated some money, but
she's already dipping into Dad's wallet. This is great stuff. Thank you, Elsie. That is wonderful. It is great to have everybody on here listening. Maybe you should just stay all day. You're pulling in some good donations here. No, thank you. Thank the Lord for blessing everybody with that. And thank you for blessing us with your pledges, Randy, Elsie, and Ethan's family. And we appreciate that. Thank you so very much. 785-621-4110. Started this morning with $30,310 in matching funds. Let's get them used up. Let's get that $250 pledge this hour. We need one more person to call in, give us that $250 pledge. But also, whatever your pledge may be, if you're praying about it and you're asking God, is there something that you would like me to do to help them out? It really doesn't matter what it is. Whatever God is placing on your heart, that is wonderful to us. We, I can promise you, are being good stewards of your money. And that's why we have such a great board of members, is because we sit around, we don't always agree, which is a good thing because then we're able to push each other into making the right decisions and not just the popular decision. So I thank our board of members, and I thank everybody who donates, knowing that what we're going to do is we're going to keep putting the joy of the gospel out there, and we're going to be using your money wisely, which ties really good into what we're talking about, Ethan.
Exactly.
Let me get really quickly. I don't see that we had a trivia winner, so I'm going to mention this trivia question one more time. 785-621-4110. So the question is, who did God call out of the land of Ur? Is it A, Abraham, B, Isaac, C, Jacob, or D, St. John the Baptist? I'll give you a clue. This is from the Old Testament. Who did God call out of the land of Ur? Is it A, Abraham, B, Isaac, C, Jacob, or D, St. John the Baptist? I would like to see a winner on that. Get those phones ringing, 785-621-4110, and we will put your name in that drawing for a $50 gift certificate to Messenger Traditional Catholic Books and Gifts. All right, I see that somebody's typing here, so we may have a winner. I'll let you know in a minute. We are on talking with Ethan Lang. We're talking about faith-driven finance. And as we're talking about finances, Fred and Kim Taylor from Victoria just donated $600. We used to have a bell in here that they would ring, but I guess people got tired of hearing the bell. I kind of miss it because I'm like, yeah,
Sure.
let's ring that, baby. But this has been great. All the people who have given this hour, we thank you all. Thank you again to Fred and Kim Taylor for donating $600. That just became $1,200 with our matching funds. We are on our way, folks. 785-621-4110. Let's get back with Ethan because that's what people want to hear. All right, Ethan, do we have any more teasers of episodes before we kind of break into talking a little bit more about your personal business and the show?
Yeah, no, I think we're good there. And obviously we'll talk a little bit about it in the future, but you can listen to these shows live on Divine Mercy Radio. All the faith-driven finance shows release on Saturday at 10 a.m. And they also rerun on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. In addition to that, you are able to listen to this show in the Divine Mercy Radio app, as well as, which is really unique to this show, your preferred podcast app. So whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, whatever it is, you can listen to the show through that.
Fantastic. And as people are listening, I want to congratulate Marlene Bonilla from Salina. She is our trivia winner. That trivia question was, who did God call out of the land of Ur? And the correct answer is Abraham. Good old Abe. Our father in faith there. All right. Getting back to Ethan Lang. 785-621-4110 for your pledges. 785-621-4110. We're talking with Ethan about our local show, Faith Driven Finance, but also Ethan is the owner of a business called Launch Wealth. Do you want to give us just a little bit of a background in how Launch Wealth started? And then also, has this local show of ours impacted your business in any way?
For sure. Yeah. So my business, Launch Wealth, was created about 2.5 years ago, really with the idea of just having an independent way to help people manage their money in a comprehensive way, look at their money, invest for their future, prepare for retirement, all of those things. Over the course of starting that business, I was really passionate and specific about helping Christians, helping Catholics look at money, invest their money in a faith-driven way, right? But yeah, I mean, the show has had a huge impact on my business. I think two things is obviously it kind of reaffirms my commitment to helping Catholics. I think that people always, financial planning, financial advising is always an area where like you want a deep personal relationship with your financial advisor, because you're telling them your goals, you're telling them your dreams, you're telling them your struggles. So to have that confidence that, what the show has done has, allowed me to have clients that, understand that I share those values is always really important to clients, of knowing that like, okay, this person has strong values that they live by, helps that trust factor even more.
Yeah. And I think one of those beautiful things too is Ethan has pledged his time with our parish out at St. Nick's, that if any new, well, going to be newlyweds, if any newlyweds want to come to him, that he would give them his time, at least in that first meeting, free, to be able to help them just understand their financial profile and stuff like that. And so that's just, another beautiful way God has given you this gift to know finances, and to want to help people out. And then that is that way that you're able to give back and say, hey, normally I could charge for this, but I just think it's beautiful that you're able to do that, because there's so many things where, we all know stewardship, time, talent, treasure. People can just blow that out there, but sometimes you don't think about it like, well, no, this is your job, but it's also your talent. Like you're just good at it. And it's what God has placed upon your heart. And so to be able to say, no, this is a gift of God. How can I share with others? I like that example of being able to give back to our community.
For sure.
So
especially those that might not be able to afford,
Absolutely.
that type of service and just need some hands-on help with whatever they're going through, whether that's paying off credit card debt, of being able to have that hands-on help. We all have talents that we can bring into the church, and using our gifts to be able to do that is really powerful.
Absolutely. I'm going to break in one more time here. And I want to thank the Knights of Columbus from Victoria. They just pledged $750, and they're challenging other Knights councils to do the same. I know at St. Nick's, we voted at our last meeting, and we will be pledging also. So you've got Victoria's council, it pledged $750. St. Nick's council is going to be pledging. So also I'm going to put that out there, Brother Knights. Let's get out there. Let's keep supporting this radio station. Thank you so very much, Victoria Knights of Columbus, for getting that ball rolling and for throwing out that challenge. What a great challenge. Sometimes in life we fall into dumb challenges, but this is a really good one where Brother Knights stand up and say, hey, this is a great cause. Get behind it. Let's go, fellas. So let's get out there. Let's get those pledges rolling again. 785-621-4110. We're using up the matching funds. It would be awesome if we used up those matching funds before Friday. And that's what we want to do, because that means that we would be right on track to hitting our goal. 785-621-4110. All right. So Ethan, we talked a little bit about your business, how it started, what your goals are in your business, but also are there any other ways that that Launch Wealth is different and unique in the way that you can help your clients?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I really do think it was God's plan, because, building out my kind of faith-driven model within my business happened. And as it was getting built was when, I was able to look into starting the show in the first place. Right. So I think it was awesome to kind of have those happen around the same time. And obviously, like, one unique way is my ability to be able to offer, specifically Catholic investment options. And what I mean by that is, investment options that the main thing they follow is the United States Catholic or Conference of Catholic Bishops, their socially responsible investment guidelines. So they've actually put out socially responsible investment guidelines of things that you should not be investing in, right? Whether that's abortion, adult entertainment, gambling, alcohol, different things like that, I'm able to offer a strong investment option that doesn't include those companies, right? But then also, helping people in a faith-driven way of, being able to, as an advisor, talk about generosity and donations, to talk about people's relationship with money, achievement of specific goals that they might have, that are still super important. So I would say that's one thing, just having a Catholic approach, a Christian approach to helping people. In addition to that, I've been very diligent with how I started my business and how I structured my business. So I'm what's considered a fee-only fiduciary advisor. What that means, in layman's terms, is I'm compensated solely through fees that clients pay me directly. So I'm not compensated through commissions for selling certain products. So, that gives clients, a very good trust that I'm recommending what's best for them, not what earns them or earns me the highest commission, right? And this crazy thing is only 2% of advisors are fee only. And then the other piece is fiduciary, which roughly 10% of advisors are. And that's that I'm legally obligated to act in a client's best interest. It's pretty crazy that 90% of advisors are only required to follow what's called the suitability standard, which basically means the recommendation has to be, suitable for a client, but it doesn't have to be what's best for the client,
Wow.
So just a few areas there of, where I structured my business a little different, to kind of follow those same values of, obviously to be, free of some biases, but also, helping clients to know that, what I'm doing for them is in their best interest.
Wow. That is I had no idea. But that really does open it up to be like, oh my goodness. Because I mean, to some degree, you would have those things overlapping, that if somebody's trying to make the most money for themselves, then they're probably making you some money too. But there's also, I could see a very big chance for things to go bad
For sure.
in that. And especially if it only has to be, I'm going to put up air quotes, people online can see me, but on the radio, not. It only has to be suitable.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
That's some pretty gray language there, man. That's pretty fuzzy ground to be like.
And obviously that doesn't mean that people that have to follow that standard like aren't
They're
still
not just
acting in
evil
people's best
people, but-
interest. Correct. But yeah, I mean, it's great to know that my business is structured like that. And I'd say the other thing is just, a big piece of my business and why I started it is I wanted to have a comprehensive service offering for people. A big reason that we talk about so many topics on this show too. And obviously you're listening, so people can't see anything, but I have this picture in my office that basically shows financial planning is this big forest, right? And investing is just one tree, right? So one of the things that has always been super important to me is like, obviously investments is a huge piece of people's financial life and preparing for the future and doing everything there. But in addition to that, that's just one tree of the huge forest of someone's financial life. So that's where it has always been super important for me to help them plan for retirement, save for specific goals. If they're older, understanding their Social Security, their options there, helping them minimize their risks with insurance to help them, leave a legacy and have their money go where they want to the specific causes, whether that's to their kids or to an organization like Divine Mercy Radio, and being able to help them leave that legacy and save money on taxes and all of those things, in addition to investments.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got, here about 5 minutes left. Are there any closing thoughts that you would like to leave us with? Any more teasers or anything else that we can take with us and kind of go, all right, that's something good to keep me going?
For sure. Yeah. I would say first off, let's just go through, this new show, Faith Driven Finance. We're very early on, right? We're 20 episodes in, which seems like a lot, but we're planning on doing this show for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And again, just to let everyone know, you can listen live, right? So you can listen on Divine Mercy Radio, wherever you listen, whether that's in the Hays, or out in Salina. It runs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and reruns on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Those are our live times. In addition to that, on demand, whenever you want, you can open up the Divine Mercy Radio app, go over to shows, and you can listen to all of the Faith Driven Finance shows there, right? So as they come out, I think they release them on either Wednesday when the rerun comes out, or they release them on Thursday. You can listen to all of our past episodes. So if there's a topic that we talked about, if you want to listen to, our discussion on financial psychology, all of those episodes are in the Divine Mercy Radio app for you to listen to. In addition to that, another kind of bonus is on demand whenever you want to, you can listen on your preferred podcast app, right? So that's if you're a Spotify user, or if you've got an iPhone, you're a big Apple Podcast user, use Amazon Music, what have you, all of those, you're able to listen on that preferred podcast platform. Just go to the podcast platform, search up Faith Driven Finance, and you'll be able to find it. So I think that's the first thing. Second thing, if, I know we said it a few times before, but if you have any questions for us, don't hesitate to reach out on the Divine Mercy website. If you go under programming, go to the Faith Driven Finance show, there's a little button that you can submit your questions there. So go ahead, submit your questions. If you listen today and you want us to talk more about something, or there's just a specific question on your mind, we'd love to hear it. Or if you even just have any advice for the show, we'd love to hear it. Our goal is to make this show for the listeners, to make this show for you. So if there is something that you want us to work on, to improve upon, we're open ears. We're excited to learn from your guys' experiences, what you want, so that we can ultimately make this show better so that it can impact more people.
Fantastic. And maybe we'll get Michael to, I don't know if we want it out there or not, but people don't know that, behind the scenes, we usually spend 5 or 10 minutes just messing around. And so maybe we'll have him do an outtakes sometime, and he can put it out there of all the dumb dad jokes.
Yeah, Cody's got quite a few years on me, so he's learned all the dad jokes and gives us about 5 minutes of them before every episode.
I apologize for that. So, all right, Ethan, anything else you got for us?
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much for your time. We really appreciate it. Please tune in to Faith Driven Finance and find it on all those different platforms, wherever you want to listen. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And hey, thank you for your gift.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
All right. You are listening to Divine Mercy Radio spring, or sorry, no, it's not spring. It's our Fall Care-a-thon, Joy of the Gospel. In fact, if you just look out the window, you can figure that out. Or if you were scraping your windows this morning, you would know that this is fall. So listen at 101.7 KJDM